that didn't say draft on it.
Well, how about that?
So, yeah, it works.
Now you, I will keep one for myself so I can refer to it, and I'll give you the other two.
Talk to
I got
Shameless.
internet, I got internet. Although the bandwidth. Kidding. I got internet.
Well, as a combination, you actually have a quorum if Zach nor Arlene actually calls in. We do have a quorum because of Elmer, we have a combination, so we have three. One of the deciding things with this new configuration is that any votes that you might take tonight will have to be a roll call vote, obviously.
Yes.
So we need to remember that. And I do expect Zach to come. I called him earlier, so I expect to see him here. But we tried this out this morning and it was somewhat of a success, but it's got some teething problems. But I think if we wanted to go ahead with this in the future, I think we could certainly resolve those teething problems and we could do it that way. But as I said, it's a combination, and at the moment, all votes would have to be taken as a roll call vote.
If we.
Kurt, if we do a roll call vote, do I have to vote or just vote immediately at time?
It doesn't matter, but you should vote,
Okay.
but you don't have to vote. I had it unless we have one of those weird situations where. Yeah. Somebody's name.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, oh my gosh, I can't tell you. Yeah, you don't want to.
No, that doesn't matter.
I haven't even thought about Willie until you said that.
I listened to the governor's press conference this afternoon. Did you hear that?
Yes. We've been listening to it every day just to kind of keep up. That's what keeps changing.
We had a $2 billion surplus in the state of Indiana, and somebody asked the question, where do we think that $2 billion surplus is at the moment? And he said, in line with everything that we had that we know we're going to have to supply, I would look at that surplus being $1 billion.
That's amazing.
So I think we're going to be tightening our belts somewhere along the line. And I guess to that end, it might be a worthwhile point to start with regards to Ruth Ann's memo, I think is what I'll refer to it as, that she sent out in regards to how council would want to approach contracts that we have in place versus those that we don't have in place that we were looking at this year. I think the general clause were that those that we've signed, we honour.
Anything we budgeted already or not?
Yeah, and I think that's
They're not extra.
no, that's the main approach we need to consider, is if it was in the budget for this year, we're probably good to roll. Are we gonna have to tighten our belts in the future? Chances are yes. Nobody knows how long this is going to go on. So, all right, say that it goes on through part of the tourist season. That'll even affect our utility revenues, because, I mean, when people are in town, they're using, the utilities and that. And obviously, the longer people are out of work, the harder it is to pay your taxes. And the income tax that, is gonna go down. Food and beverage tax is gonna go down. So the main thing to consider is, was it really part of our budget on our capital plan? And from Greg's office, he says, if it was there, we're good. I mean, financially, we are sitting in the best place the town has ever sat. And, so, but it's just that moving forward, we need to proceed with caution, so to speak,
But there are some areas that we had discussed that we voted on doing that we haven't actually brought into doing yet in regards to the contract. One I'm going to bring up, and that is the sidewalk from Blue Gate Restaurant to Farber Street. We had said that we would pay for that out of TIF. It was in the TIF district. We started the procedural matters on it, but we haven't signed the contract. So is that something that we're talking about in regards to having it budgeted, approved last year, but we actually haven't gone into a contract? Is that something that you want me to proceed with?
Okay, you don't have to join.
No. So.
And this is a discussion point.
Right.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
You know, and there's a couple of these things. We know that we've budgeted for the 2 alleys, for argument's sake, that were part of the community crossing grant from last year. They're the alleys that are east and west of Harrison Street. But we looked at maybe doing the 3rd alley, which was on the northern part of Harrison Street, northern part of that alley, which ran east and west from State Road 5 down towards the Davis Mercantile. You were discussing perhaps doing that instead of High Street, but we haven't committed to that really. Is that something we put off?
My general opinion was like I don't think like a blanket, anything that's not signed out to you. I'd like to see what they were, and some we
Okay.
might, some we won't. That's
Then,
my
then
opinion.
can I suggest then that I put,
Most we won't, I don't.
could I suggest then that I put a list together?
Yeah.
Send you out that list?
Because all
Ones
the
that we have under
other
contract.
if we can hold off, we can-
Ones that we have under
We
contract?
need to hold off.
One that we've discussed and that we've actually allocated funding for in regards to saying TIP money, and then ones that we've discussed, but we actually haven't discussed outlining.
Can you hear okay, Elmer?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, I'm getting
List
a
together,
little back.
such a way with contractor there, on the contract, at the top, I had the, you know. And the ones that we've discussed, that we've said we will pay for from either TIP or some other things, or ones that we would like to have done, we actually haven't allocated where the funding would come from.
Because I'd be more, we got, this is gonna be great.
You're saying it's very big statement.
Now, I'm assuming, by mistake, that if we got our grant for the pumpkin bomber, we know we've allocated the money for that from, I think it was a combination, and I should know it, if we're gonna take it.
So, yeah.
Out of,
Food and beverage.
food and
I know that,
beverage.
yeah.
And I think we looked at maybe some of the 4.6 million possibility of doing.
So is the alley, the alley's the only project that we're looking at that's not grant money?
The alleys are actually allocated from last year. We put, you dedicated that money
Okay.
for those 2 alleys. We just ran out of time. So for want of a better word, that money's there.
Yeah, it's happening.
Mhm.
But the other alley was north of that there, and you discussed doing that instead of maybe High Street, but we haven't allocated where that funding was gonna come from. We thought it could have come from TIP. It's the one that runs east and west. It runs from State Road 5, it goes east towards the Davis Mercantile, and it's pretty much on the south side of the Davis Mercantile parking lot, jumping down to Harrison Street. I drove you down the other day, it's pretty bad. I drove you down High Street. At that stage, you thought High Street wasn't bad, but it wasn't great, but it didn't need to be. And you thought that maybe we could put it towards some others, and that's why I put it down that alley as a possibility. But I think that's what I need to show you, black and white, and show you a map. Do it on Beacon also, so you can relate to the maps in regards to what I'm talking about. There's a couple of structures we have to do on Berkshire, because they're about to collapse. We talked about that, but you never actually said where that funding was gonna come from. And I don't know what the cost of that is, but we were gonna look at that when we did Middlebury. But they have to get.
The other thing to consider when looking at these projects is there's probably some unknowns in the future that we'll probably need money for. You know, and referring to those structures is maybe one of them, but there's something that none of us we can't think of right now that we're gonna need some money for.
In a normal year, we probably
Exactly. We would have found it somewhere, and now, you know, we do expect revenues to go down. I like the idea of taking it case by case, but, you know, it would be wise as well just to say, hey, there's something down the road that we need regardless.
There's always the emphasis, and there's the emergencies being funded.
Right.
You know. All right, so let me put that list together, at least so you can see, you know, some sort of structure. What we're looking at that we have committed to, what we've talked about, where the funding was going to come from, things that we would like to do, but we actually haven't discussed where that funding is going to come from, some possible numbers to give you some better idea. Obviously, we're following all the guidelines that's come down from the federal government, that which then has trickled down through state, which has then trickled down through the county, then to us. You're also implementing your own ordinances tonight, I believe. It was just a frog in the throat. So to that end, I think we're being compliant. I've driven around town, as I'm sure you all have. You would not know that this is the Shipshewana that everybody's used to. The only businesses that are open are the ones that can stay, or can't, but they're abiding by what the governor's asked for. We do have our gas station open at somewhat of a limited hours now. It's at work from the hours of 6 to 9, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. instead of 24 hours. The grocery stores are open, but everybody else is pretty much shut down because they just know we're not getting the visitors coming. So it's a very quiet time. I know this is an unfortunate thing to say, but in all honesty, I wish we were ready to go with that construction at Middlebury Street right now. I really do. But to that end, I think everybody within the community here has abided by the governor's wishes, and I'm happy to say that I think that the town's doing the right thing. I've had no problem with anyone. There has been some complaints in regards to some price gouging. I went and looked at those myself. I found them to be without merit. Matter of fact, I went up to one, and there was evidently a Facebook post put out, and I couldn't see what they were talking about. It was one of those things that I think somebody just took a photo of and then decided it was going to be one of our grocery stores. But to that end, I'm happy to say I think the town is complying with the governor's request.
Do you have any extra time? They were selling $125 for a troll back on eBay.
Really?
I was
Oh,
curious one
man.
day, so I logged on and one sold. One got a minute to go at 80, and it went to 130.
Well, you can go to Forks grocery store up here, buy a pack of 24 for $6. That's not a brand name, but for argument's sake, you know, it's
That's the job.
I was going to start. It would be cheaper.
I have received a letter from Chad Niblock. He's the owner of Niblock in regards to our community crossing grant. They're very much wanting to move ahead. They understand that things are in some sort of flux at the moment. The only thing that they would like to probably do is come back and revisit the contract in regards to completion time. I said we fully would understand that problem. We're glad that they're still going ahead, not pulling out or anything, but completion dates might be somewhat subject to change. We don't know when they're really going to be able to get in there. They're going to open up their black topping plant in mid-April, but you know.
Does the grant have any requirements for completion?
No, but if we said that, well, there is, but for argument's sake, that completion date will be June of next year. They would like it done in the season, but you know, things just don't. For argument's sake, we carried over from last year into this year with the other, but that was an add-on. It wasn't actually part of the community crossing grant, but we added it on. But yeah, June. So you've got to be. The contract has to be satisfied as far as INDOT's concerned before you can apply for your next one, which would be the July of the following year. So we actually would have until June of next year to complete 2020 Middlebury construction project. So we're okay there. So I just wanted to let you know that they did send a letter and that they are prepared to go full bore ahead. The only thing is that we might have to start to discuss completion dates based on convention dates. Stormwater rates, and when we start to discuss that tonight, will be we're no further ahead than where we were before. All of a sudden, they seem like a very minor proposal on to upgrade the phone lines. We're not going to get anywhere with that tonight. James has been trying, but he just hasn't been able to get that together.
I'm just waiting for the last quote.
Yeah. Cancellation of the outstanding warrants. Ruth Ann's going to cover that tonight. I want to talk about these a little bit. We had the suspension of water shut-offs and penalties. They're contained actually in the ordinances, but they were part of the agenda. So I'm just going to go over those as an agenda item, saying that, you know, they are going to be looked at in detail in the ordinance. Instead of reading out the entire ordinance, just maybe go over it and say, you know, what we will be looking at is suspension of water shut-offs in regards to utilities and also the penalty rates, which means that if somebody wasn't able to pay their utility rate water, we're not going to shut them off. And once that's known, and it will be known, I'm sure that people will understand that. but that is part of the actual ordinance also. And then reimbursement of the Wolf Building rentals during the COVID-19 restrictions. The building was rented out. Generally, as a rule, if you rent and then you decide not to, we don't reimburse because we've held that date. Other people might have used it. We don't keep a track of who did come in. But that was the general rule. Instead of me just being able to turn around and say, well, I'm going to cease doing that, I can't really do that. Council would need to do that. So again, it's part of the ordinance, you know, and I don't know if that was in there, but
It's something we should just do a separate motion on.
yeah. Where we would reimburse any of those that are paid in full or by portion. And I would also be asking not to take any additional rentals for the month of April until we decided where we are.
So you see, you're looking for an approval for a timeline, like you're only gonna do this through June and then we're back to normal?
I don't know, we could say, ask for a suspension of rental of the Wolf Building until further notice.
I like the idea of the policy you had. I'd hate to see it go bye-bye. And I know this is a dire time and people need help.
Oh, I'm not
But
asking,
I hate the season to be good and then all of a sudden,
yeah, I'm just asking to suspend the policy, not to remove it. It affected one of our officers here, she had a book for
March.
yeah, but
I think the idea is to leave the building closed as long as there's a health emergency. I think that reduces liability, you know, for the town. And this wasn't, you know, their choice to cancel, so that's why reimbursing anyone who's paid for it would be the, in my mind, the correct thing to do.
The county's declaration, I'm trying to remember, but I think maybe the state of emergency through, I feel like, or something, so, not, they can't reverse that. Ordinance that establishes the county state of emergency. And I, of course, don't have it with me, but I feel like it's through April 20.
we did have the April 23rd initially, and then that was amended,
Yes.
which was, I think, on the second page, second to last paragraph, where we did have it.
Yes, that's a good idea.
We did have it out to April 23rd, but then that was removed.
Right. We basically changed it to be through your state of emergency, so you can be consistent with that. That, which within sometime in the latter part, of April, unless the commissioners extend, which we'll all be waiting to see. But you have ultimate flexibility because you have another meeting between now and then, so you can change your mind next time.
All right. Yeah, but we would only be suspending this. It wouldn't be nothing that that's what I'll ask for tonight. Claims and payments outside of the council meeting during the COVID-19 restrictions, everything's going to adjust that.
Basically, what that is covering, it should have come to the point where we, you know, are not able to meet so that you guys could approve something that our bills are still gonna get paid, really. And they would normally, I mean, I don't see if there would be anything out of the ordinary, you know. And so that was just to make sure that bases are covered should something happen that, you know, we've got it set up so we could all meet virtually now. And I believe, like I said, I sat in on a webinar with the, and I'm just facing the guy's name,
Public access council.
thank you, that's who it was. Yes,
Luke H. Rick.
there we go, okay. And, you know, they have said that we can actually just, during this crisis, no one has to be here, we can do it all virtually. I mean, obviously, somebody has to be here to, you know, run it, but, and so, you know, like today, you should have all received your claims registers, you know, and that. So, it's just the idea of moving forward that should, you know, for whatever reason it not work out, basically Bob would review everything, you know, and, payments could still be made in a timely manner is what it comes down to.
And that's continuing the ordinance.
Then there would be then the adoption of the two ordinances.
What's the thing?
The procedure that we're going to.
For the claims payment.
So do we need to do anything, or is it just it'd be in the ordinance when we vote about it.
It's good for her to explain it, and then.
I mean, is it a separate action item or is it?
No, I don't think you need to, unless we're going to. Her if she's concerned, so I would defer to her if she wants another motion or rely on the ordinance.
And the main thing, the auditors were here doing their audit, so I was kind of asking him as things were changing, kind of a thing. He said, just be sure it is written down. A motion in the meeting will suffice if you don't, get resolutions and all that done. The main thing is you have to have something in writing documented, so that when they come back, then they will not take exception to the change in procedures is what it has to do.
And the ordinance, like I said, is something she can give to them for substantiation, to wrap her up. The ordinance, as it relates to the procedures, is a result of the State Board of Accounts request for a policy. And of course, as you saw, it changed many, many times from the first initial advice that came out through all of the different people that have been put on this order, and it changed literally until today. And if we didn't have this meeting, we'd probably change tomorrow. So anyway, it accomplishes those procedural, waiving some of those procedural requirements that we do go through in a regular setting, only through the state of emergency. So it's kind of.
I had a question for you, because I haven't had a chance to look at the email. I think it came from Don Wiseman.
Oh, that's right in front of you, or somewhere.
This one request for a public.
There's a form.
Is that one?
Yeah, that's it. Excuse me, sorry. It's trying to eat my. Eventually, you're going to want to fill out that form and work with Don, Bob, and Ruth, because that will get all of your costs and expense for this emergency
And that's
reimbursement.
what it is.
Right, and so, for instance, in our case, of course, we created a separate file just for all of these issues. So when you get our bill, it will have emergency management as the matter number, and all of those bills can be reimbursed. And everything else that would incur as a result, so if you had to acquire laptops or internet or whatever it costs, as long as you can tie into this particular situation, they are qualified for, are eligible for reimbursement. That form, in some format, has to be eventually filled out through Don's office. And you guys can work directly with Don, of course, if you have questions, let me know, but he's very happy to help and very helpful to make sure that you get reimbursed as a part of that. And these ordinances, of course, the procedural ones, will eventually go in and help substantiate. Plus, the commissioner's ordinance, of course, declaring in the state of emergency in the county is further substantiation. So like Bob said, you start from the national, you get through the governor, and you get down to the local level, and now we're here. So we got to go back up the chain, and it starts with that document.
And with these,
So,
Because the police have had expenditures, they bought additional things, masks, plastic gloves, sanitizer, not full body suits, but the wrap around, probably better than me, smock type thing that they wear.
but would one be submitted for the town as a
Yes.
whole?
we want to do one for the whole town,
Okay,
and because you'll have a better chance of getting all of them reimbursed. if you do.
so fire department too, like if they
Everybody
had
should
to,
go
everything.
through you guys.
Okay.
And submit that to Don.
How long do you sit on
It can be started now. And
Collecting.
Supplemented.
Collecting or
Yes.
actually filing for?
I think the collecting, I don't think the filing is, they just approved the financial package, of course, which supports this last night. So this is now you're one of the first to see it. There it is. It's ready to go. Really, I mean, you're literally one of the maybe first, everybody's getting theirs tonight.
Well, I got a glimpse of the email and then
Good.
changed
Yeah.
to read it.
That's the essence of it, is basically, you can get reimbursed, you need to start substantiating, documenting that it's tied to the event, and then work with Don to get it submitted.
Now, I had been a little selective on what I said to you because it's on every news item, it's on every TV station. But there is so much coming through that all I would be doing is clogging up your email. But if it's selective or if necessary, I'll make sure I forward it. But some of it's just, in light of what has occurred in the last 5 minutes, it's just 1 minute update. But there's a lot of stuff going on out there at the moment.
Well, that's also why I haven't submitted draft after draft after draft. Literally, we've been through, for each county, whatever, multiple drafts until we got to the point where I finally sent you what I thought was final, and as it turned out to be, it's not.
I hate to think of this, what's gonna occur from all of this, but, it's a learning curve for everybody. We're all on it. Now, out there in the foyer, prior to coming into the town hall itself, Carlos, with Tom, in conjunction with Tom, set up a non-perishable food and item bank, and they've had pretty good response to that. It's out there, if you need it, take it. If you want to drop something off, not locked, it never has been locked, you can't get it to the front door. But they set that up and put it on the website and that, so, and there's everything from diapers to toilet tissue to canned vegetables and stuff like that. So, everybody's trying to do a little bit somewhere, and they've started that, and I imagine as the weeks go by, we'll probably see that diminish pretty easily. Part of that package was to assist in regard to unemployment. The federal, what the state might be paying, they're looking at maybe an additional $600, but they're not sure how that's all going to come about now. There's $1,200 that's supposed to come out, depending on whether you're a single individual making up to $75,000 or a married couple making up to $150,000. Supposedly you're going to get a return quickly. That's only if you happen to be logged into the IRS and you have a direct deposit. If you don't have a direct deposit for the IRS, it could take quite a long while. Hopefully you might have a direct deposit for the IRS. So if there's a return that gets sent to you. I'm not in that situation, unfortunately. I send them money.
I was gonna say, the second ordinance that you have, we refer to it as the wage and salary ordinance amendment. That's not what it's totaled.
No.
But that are titled. But can you explain what
Absolutely.
that covers a little bit? Maybe they understand it good.
Well, and the reason it's not the title on the agenda and the title in the document is because I didn't know the title to the ordinance when we started. And so it's changed as well, but it covers conceptually really two things. One is the concept that, and as you know, until yesterday, we didn't know for sure what the federal government's FMLA COVID pay for leave was going to look like versus the pay for stay at home and work. So remember, there's really two things going on. One is pay for staying at home and working, which is completely at your discretion. And so in other words, depending on whether or not somebody qualifies, whether or not the technology is available, whether or not it's an essential function of their job and it can be performed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you adopt this ordinance, you are authorized then to pay people to work at home remotely without violating the ghost employment statutes. Because remember, as a public entity, not a private entity, public entities have that restriction where you basically have to be able to substantiate their time. Historically, people haven't let public employees work at home. With all of this happening, that is now being encouraged, at least for the time being. As you see, this ordinance takes it through December 31 of 2020. Why is that? It's because that's what the federal law just adopted, takes it through too. So we're trying to be consistent with that. So it is a permissive thing on the pay at remotely working at home, if et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other piece of it is not a elective kind of situation where you can choose. And it is the pay for somebody that meets the requirements. And if they meet those requirements, they get up to 80 hours of pay. And it's either 100% or 66 2/3, depending on the situation. We can go through all the details of all that, but it's in your ordinance. So that is really where the federal government is saying, if you're one of these people that qualifies because you've been diagnosed with COVID-19 then you fit within the category that lets you stay home, and we can provide you up to 80 hours of pay, depending on lots of different things. And there's lots of variables, which we could spend a lot of time talking about, but and the amount of pay depends on which category you fit within, and how long that pay continues, of course, and whether or not they supplement it. Depends also on whether or not they want to use some of their sick or vacation and have it allocated, and that's an elective choice on their part. So it really does two things. One is it authorizes you to let people work at home if you want to, remotely, and if they're capable of performing the essential functions of their job, and if they meet the requirements of your. The second one is if they happen to be unfortunate enough to be one of these people that fits in the category of having been diagnosed with, et cetera, then they are entitled to leave up to 80 hours of pay. Is that helpful? It's really, really generic 50,000-foot explanation of what this does. The work at home remotely part is not required by federal law. It's something that's being encouraged by the governor, and we incorporated those concepts into the 80 hours for pay if somebody meets the qualifications is required by federal law on December 31 of 2020. Keeping in mind that if things change and this situation resolves itself and the emergency goes away, you can always repeal this ordinance, which is also good to know. You can't repeal the federal law, of course, so unless the federal law changes, that portion can stay, but the portion relating to work, allowing people to work remotely at home could be repealed.
And if the emergency pays were extended, we can revisit it to extend as well.
Absolutely. The deadline is there so that you're not stuck with a permanent, we're going to pay some fee.
And just to that end, here in the township, Shawana, we don't really have anybody that would need to work from home. If they had to, they could. Now, for argument's sake, Seamus could easily. He could log into anybody's computer and be able to do what he has to do. Now, in regards to essential services, our utilities, they need to be maintained. So our water superintendent and sewer superintendent, they obviously wouldn't be working from home. They would be coming in to do their tasking. And we really only had 3 other employees at out here at the coalface, working out here in the town. That's our buildings and grounds. For argument's sake, there's no reason why at this stage they don't or can't come to work. They have very little contact with the public. Not that there's many people out there to make contact with at the moment, so they can continue to work. To that end, I don't see any differences or changes in the way we're going forward with the employees. Now, the police and fire, the fire department is volunteer and they will do whatever they have to do, but there's no change to the police force here. They're structured, they still work their normal hours and that, and they certainly wouldn't be able to work from home. There's very little people here that would be working from home, if that was ever the case. Sandy, there's nothing that she could do from home, but there's no reason, since we've closed the building here, that she was to restrict her contact with folks, as we all do. She could come to work here without any problem whatsoever. So to that end, I don't think there's any action we need to take to decide we're that big that we should be sending home half staff or something. Unless you have some thoughts on that. The town's not going to go away, we still need to keep it where it's got to be. And to that end, we have been asked by IDEP, and I've read the email that was sent on to me today, that in the event some of the local communities around here have to be struck down in regards to maybe one of their operated water or sewer, that we might be able to lend assistance. We would always be our priority for ourselves. I didn't see any reason not to be able to say that in the event that we had to assist, we would assist. Everybody's trying to chip in whatever necessary. At the moment, everything that we have in regard to our utilities and just ongoing efforts to keep the town where it's got to be, we don't have any problems in regard to it. There are some funny businesses that you might see that you say, well, that shouldn't be working. For argument's sake, there's a blood drive at the Met next Friday. That's going to go ahead. I called Dr. Peachin, who is our chief medical officer, I guess, for the town of county, He said that no, these things need to go ahead. You don't want people to die for a loss of blood in case somebody might have had, well, we understand the reasoning there. The Red Cross will take all the precautions that they deem necessary based on what the standards are today from the CDC. So they used to just operate out of one half of that bottom area. They'll occupy the entire bottom half. They'll make sure that people are waiting are spaced and so on and so forth. The Met will make sure there's people not bagged up outside waiting to come in and that. They're waiting their cars or wherever that might have to be, and then they'll call people forward as they're needed. They'll move them in one door and out the other. So we were encouraged to let that go ahead. Now you're going to see some auctions down here at the land rights. Now, I know that might seem funny, but they've got to keep it to the numbers and so forth. That falls under the USDA fund. Food production, stuff like that. Hay, selling of hay, stuff like that. Being fed to animals out there in the agriculture aspect. Agriculture, when you read the breakdown of what, they've got a pretty liberal set of uses and requirements. So things like that, if people talk to you, that's okay. Now, they can't have their antique auction or anything like that. Cattle auction or selling of hay and stuff like that, transferring of animals from one vehicle to the other to be taken somewhere else, that can go ahead under the USDA. And they are registered under the USDA. So if you get some calls, they're okay to do that. There's no problem. And same as the blood drive. But everybody else has been pretty compliant. So I only heard one thing in the county where one restaurant had to be shut. Try to comply with the governor's orders, and that occurred. But I also heard in that meeting today from the governor where certain jurisdictions have been pulling over people and telling them they shouldn't be on the road and what's their justification for being on the road. There is no authority whatsoever from state, local or municipality issued to any police officer to pull anybody over unless there's some other sort of moving violation or something like that, and ask them what they're doing on the road, where's their paperwork to prove they're exempt or whatever. No such thing. If somebody sees something occurring and they call Tom, for argument's sake, go out there and tell them they should be shut down or they shouldn't be on the road, he has no jurisdiction for that. Just giving you a heads up on that. If somebody calls you and say they should be doing that, they don't have any law, I think, is the term, to be able to back that up. And Kurt,
I can give you a little bit of information on that, and then don't let me forget, Bob, I have something I need to bring up before we transition. And I just need a couple minutes. So when you look at the governor's order, he references section 10-4-3. Of course, we looked it up to make sure we understood it, because Tom had questions about it. And that section that he references deals with executive orders, which is what his order is. It falls underneath that part of the statute. And it gives, I guess before I define something, I'll tell you, Bob's absolutely right. They police officers don't have the right to just stop somebody, and they're being discouraged even by the governor's order from doing so. They're basically asking them to exercise, very cautious discretion in this regard, and that only if they see something else that appears to be a violation, they even inquire as to what the reason the person is being stopped. But with regard to executive orders, the law basically says, and I can just essentially quote it, that a law enforcement officer of the state or a political subdivision, which is what we are, has the authority to enforce an order under this chapter, meaning they can enforce the executive order. But, like I said, as you go through that, the question is, how do they do that? So if they have the power, what is their power? And their power is basically to, if they find that someone is knowingly, intentionally, or recklessly violating, so they're going to have that state of mind, right, which would be something very egregious that they're doing in the face of, or, and it would be a class B misdemeanor. So it's not a significant, it's not like it's a felony or they can haul them off to jail or something along those lines. It's basically, it's a misdemeanor. It's something akin to a reckless driving or something along those lines. So there is some authority, but the order is being, the governors and their people are suggesting that the officers use discretion and that they not go out looking for people that are violating the order. They're supposed to be basically just making sure that nobody is doing anything intentionally, recklessly, or knowing or willfully. So, I think that what Bob Bob said is accurate. And, but to the extent that they would find somebody, I mean, there was a report that somebody was, not here, this is somewhere statewide, somebody would go in and they would approach someone and there was some sort of an argument over something they wanted to get at the store. I can't remember if it was toilet paper or what it was, but the person said, did something to this person and either touched them or breathed on them or something along those lines and said, you know, I have coronavirus. And attempt this person into relinquishing control over whatever the item was they wanted to get in the store. That clearly is going beyond. That's something intentionally reckless. That's something for which the police officer would want to enforce. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. We don't have the stopping somebody out.
A lot of that
And I
stuff
vote,
could be caused
Exactly.
anyway, any outside of it.
Battery.
Yeah.
I believe that charge, if I read it right, was gonna be terrorism.
Yes,
Oh, my.
that's what they're talking about.
Ah.
But that's an example,
Sure.
as opposed to, which we shouldn't be doing, is stopping people and saying, where are you going?
Yeah.
And they're looking at it as possibly being terrorism.
Ouch.
So there you go. But, so there is, may I have time to approach an issue?
Yeah, I'm actually done. I've tried to.
I don't want to, do you have something else?
Nope.
Okay, because it really deals more with Ruthann than anything.
I'm just gonna see if
Probably
Tom
knows
had
this.
something
Yeah, you
before.
can, because this is more a clerk treasurer
Yeah,
thing.
I'll just leave it on.
So Saturday, the governor signed a new law in place that immediately restricts towns from being able to require landlords to basically ensure the creditworthiness of their tenants. What does that mean?
So
Basically,
designed
they
it.
did,
Grr.
they did, yeah. What it means is that, not with sewer, but with stormwater and water. The law did not change, which is good with sewer, because we still have the ability to lien property of a landlord if the tenant doesn't pay. So none of it changed with regard to sewer, but it did change dramatically with regard to water and stormwater. And so there is a need for us, if you will authorize us to do so, to work with Ruthann to get this, these ordinances changed, not only from the standpoint of how we address landlord-tenant relations, but our billing practices. And so we need to work with Ruthann to get that accomplished. It was effective immediately, so we need to be cautious in our practice until we can get the ordinance changed, because our ordinances currently do provide, which is appropriate, it was before Saturday, that the landlord stands for the cost of the tenant if the tenant doesn't pay. We need to undo that with regard to water and stormwater, and we'll, Ruthann and I need to figure out how to, I'll send you a memo on
Okay.
what it says, if that's all right. I haven't had a chance to digest it all yet, because it just got signed Saturday, and I just found out about it today.
Yeah,
So
we maybe need to consider raising our deposits. As
one
part of
thing on my
One way,
list,
we could help address it.
this is what I want them, you all to consider.
Deposits for all.
Sewer.
Deposits for people who-
Well,
Sewer deposits, the law lets you charge the landlord 3 times, 3 months, 3 months. We currently only charge $100 for water, if I'm not
that
mistaken.
is right.
We charge nothing for sewer. So the suggestion, you don't have to do it, but my suggestion is you look towards, now that this law has changed, if you want to have any chance of getting paid for some of these things with tenants in there, to require 3 months of sewer in the landlord setting, landlord-tenant setting. That will require an ordinance change, but the statute does allow you to do it.
How do you do 3 months on sewer when the sewer is not meeting the water?
We use the average of their bill. So, and that's something I don't want to get into right now, Seamus, because I need to give them some options, and I really prefer not to debate that at this moment.
No, I wasn't paying that.
But, no, just because for other reasons, primarily that I don't know the answer to all the questions right now. But I guess I would tell you that at least you should consider the possibility of, as Ruthann said, and we're recommending that you at least consider as a part of this process of transitioning, that you increase your, you charge a sewer deposit that would effectively result in something no less than 3 months average sewer bill in the past. They look at the history. Anyway, the particulars. I'm not proposing proposing to bring you something and say, here, you have to do it. I want your feedback and input, and if you're willing, the question is would you authorize us tonight to start working with Ruth Ann to adjust the water and the stormwater side? And as part of that, would you start to consider whether or not you want to charge a deposit on the sewer side? That's the question. You don't have to answer that right.
And what is the deposit work again as far as you ever get that back?
The deposit.
When they move out, this is for rent, that's what we've historically done, is charge a deposit on the renter. So if you're a property owner, we have not charged a deposit. Some places do, we don't. The places that do, I think what they do is after X number of months of no, not being late, things like that, then they go ahead and, refund the deposit. But
The way, there's several, like we're not referencing, there's different ways to calculate that 3-month average. I'll give you those options later, but I guess really the question is, do you like the idea of exploring that while we're working on the change to the water and storm? So then I think, Bob, if you can make sure
Yes.
we get authority to do that. And then the final thing I want to tell you about that law, this is something that Ruth Ann and Greg will have to work on, and I'm sure he's probably already aware of, but if he's not, Ruth Ann can alert him. They did something which is going to be, I think, incredibly difficult and frustrating for towns, small towns like ours. They subjected us to IURC regulation as it relates to all newer sewer extensions, which means, as you know, we're not currently regulated by IURC. This new law requires us to deal with IURC, Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Very complex set of rules for financial projections that you have to do before you connect or extend any sewers. And that is effective immediately as well. So any new sewer extensions, we have to comply with that and deal with IURC.
that would be something new.
So that is something that you and Greg will have to get into with Bob and with your sewer utility superintendent and start to deal with, because there is a fine of $700 for each violation, and as you can see, every time you do one, it's another $700.
Where does that start to come into play? For argument's sake, we're looking at the possibility, and is this a possibility, of expanding our sewer plant?
The plant, it doesn't come into pop, it's only if you're extending the line. It's a new extension, as I read it, new construction. It wouldn't even be for replacements or maintenance, only new construction, new extension.
So we're covered south pretty good, we're covered west pretty good. The east and north, really, right?
Or northeast, yeah.
Could be one. could be
Well,
west.
But anything that we branch off would be considered new. We have established lines, but once we branch off that line, that would be considered new.
I've got a question going back to the construction and everything coming up. I'm just now, I didn't get to read my emails, I'm just now reading emails from finance. Yeah. So am I reading it right that they're sort of advising to go ahead as scheduled for this round of the budget and more or less be a lot more cautious with next year's budget?
Yes, that's what.
Sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
that's all right.
No, go ahead. You can
Okay.
answer it.
No,
And I think, and Greg, you the same thing, just be aware of what you're spending this year. Be more cautious in your spending. And if you feel necessary to put things on hold, then
Well, but, okay, but the first sentence is just saying to stay on course for the 2020 budget. So.
yes, in other words. we
Well, that's a
plan-
little bit what I was asking about, whether I should start, keep pursuing the things that we had on the drawing boards. For argument's sake, I call it the Blue Gate sidewalk project. You know, we started that. We know that we talked about it. We knew we had a rough dollar amount of $320,000. The only thing we hadn't done was pull the trigger in regards to letting the sidewalk right away would have to be acquired and stuff like that. But that's something I want to still pursue, because we did discuss that financing coming from the TIF district. We realised we had the money in TIF. If I'm not mistaken, I think in that state road tip, we have about 2.1 million. So we're looking at those projects, and that's where I'll divide that up. The ones that were under contract, ones that we've discussed and said the money can come from here, and others where we think it was nice to do, but we haven't actually discussed how they're going to be funded.
Yeah, because like you said, there are other things. Maybe have to do with the IURC.
Apparently.
You know, stuff like that.
There's just many different layers to that, unfortunately. That's going to be laborious.
Pumpkin Vine update, Willie got back with me today and said, he said, all looks good, but it will be 2 weeks before it's done.
It's quicker than I thought it would be. So that's good.
If he's, I don't know where he's, you know, if it's 2 weeks, I hope that's accurate.
I took it to him
Quicker than I thought.
Tuesday of last week. He was going to have an answer back on Friday, so he obviously got that back last Friday and then time 2 weeks before. But he wasn't able to elaborate on what he was talking about. So I don't know if that was re-establishing that previous document or a new one.
So hopefully, if 2 weeks is a good, solid time frame, it looks like we might slip in right before that April 15th. I was looking at that email from Jay Spencer from yourself.
Well, you know, it's a little bit of a time thing that we have to, got the survey, we have to prepare the easement document, and then it's all got to fit within whatever Willie has.
Yeah, I just saw his email the other day and noticed one of the last things I mentioned is we'd like to have it completed by April 15th.
Our documents are done. Bob and I work our office. And Bob.
I just got to get you that one, and I will,
Right.
Plug and play.
for the easement.
We need an easement.
Yep, I'll get that for you.
Any word on the grant?
Nothing yet.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me at this point.
But to be very honest, nobody's received any word yet.
Well, that's what I mean. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't say anything.
I hate to use this term, but no news is good news.
Yeah.
But the county did give to the Hawpatch trail, I think they allocated them, I don't know if it was a loan or they gave it to them, I think $1.2 million from Major Moves, is that the term we use? 1.5 million for that trail.
We were in the county, right?
Well, it's county, yeah.
Part of it is.
And we're actually not in the county where we were over here. We were out in the county, but they, and I don't know that at the time that we were doing the trail, when I say we, corporation, I don't know that that money was available.
It wasn't at the time you started.
Yeah, so, you know, I'd like to see it go through. But I guess I'll just say one other thing, and I've said it twice now in different meetings, I really want to see the gas go through. At the moment, there are some folks who are being made, well, not made, there's no other choice, they have to connect to LP.
My understanding, there was a hearing at the IURC about that project that folks in another county are not pleased with because it's not extending into the other county. And so they're, I think, seeking to object. And so that could delay that maybe more. But I think the dilemma is
Have Eileen, I didn't realize. Hello Eileen, can you hear us?
I can almost. I can catch most of it.
Okay.
Which one's the speaker? That one?
Yes, microphone and speaker.
It's,
Are we up to our maximum volume on what we have here? Okay.
do we have a speaker that we can record in, that we can move around?
We could in the future, I don't know that we have one yet.
Yes, in the future. I don't have one right now.
We're
Find
going
a nice one that we can use.
That'll help.
we're going to purchase a better camera.
Reverse.
There you go.
So you're talking big speaker.
Microphone. you been to the,
But,
have you
you know,
been
to be honest,
Wireless Bluetooth.
to be honest,
to the county one?
you can
Me,
almost
check it over.
justify.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
usually
but
it's fiber to the home.
Drivers. Absolutely USB drivers. And then you just turn it off and turn it on. We use little.
There's a little, one of the, you know, many funding mechanisms, and you probably saw this too, but one of them is 100 million set aside for fiber. Part of that. I don't know.
I didn't see that.
I don't know what the rules are, but I saw it this afternoon in that package. It's 100 million set aside. 3 years.
I sat in on a webinar for the federal grant, where there's 550 million for high-speed internet. And I realized when I sat down listening to that, I simply didn't have the intelligence to follow it. You needed to be a huge company that dealt with it. That's what I was doing.
We're gonna call the meeting to order. 6 o'clock.
Can we pray? Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, God, I thank you for this time, this meeting. Lord, I ask you that you direct us. Lord, I ask for your mercy, for your comfort, shelter over our country, over our county, over our town. Thank you so much for your love. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll accept the motion to accept the agenda for Philly.
Okay, it does. Yes, I mean, this is gonna be difficult for me to remember too, so we'll try to keep each other on it. The motion, everything has to be done by roll call because the theory is the public has to be able to hear it online. And so every motion, every vote you take, make sure, unfortunately, you allow Ruth Ann to be able to write down by roll call. So it has to be read, spoke aloud, everybody can hear. So you may accept the motion, yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, okay.
Aye.
I need someone to make the motion.
Oh,
I will accept the motion.
He said I will.
I will. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Norma, do you accept the
He
motion?
did.
I do, I do.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yes.
It's gonna be hard to remember, yeah.
The roll call, you wanna call the name, it'll be easier for you, you want us to?
Oh, okay.
It'll be easier for you to.
Yes.
Welcome, all the visitors. Make sure you sign in, it's on the podium in the back. Police department.
First of all, I guess, do you guys have any questions or anything, what's going on with our department on the coronavirus?
You're staying healthy, doing well?
Yeah, we're fine.
Spirits are good?
Like I said, we kind of were on this a little early. We probably 2 weeks ago, we started getting stuff, so we're doing pretty good. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our community, what they've done. We've had a bunch of people who call us and they're having us pick up face masks for people, for first responders. I bet we've had, I think I heard or read where Parkview had done 100. I have somebody in Country Lane that had done probably 100 themselves. And so this is just what kind of community we live in. That was this. Today we had somebody bring in, I bet you, another 70 or so. We're trying to distribute them. We've taken them to nurses and some of our local doctor's offices and stuff. So I kind of just wanted to make mention of that to you because the board are aware that's what your community out here, they come together. We have a great community of people who know sewing and quilting and putting it to good use. And I think it's a good thing for them because there's a shortage, but I think it gives them something to do, and mentally, it's a good thing for them. Because it's food for them. It's a good thing. Carlos set up. He came up with an idea. Let's do this table. So we went out and put a food table together, and I know that Newberry Township donated some food right away, and we've had some people drop off stuff in the last couple of days, so that table's out here, and it's basically, if you need something in the community, you can go in there, doesn't require anybody meeting with anybody, you can go in, take what you need, there's a board there, if there's something you need, we'll try to resource it and get it, and put it back, and put it out there. So, other than that, we've made some policies, I guess, try to change some things. I'm having our guys take their temperature, just so that we don't try to, I mean, I don't wanna have the whole department go down at once, kind of, when things go bad. That's when we probably need to be out here as opposed to us all being in quarantine somewhere waiting. So, we're trying to at least maybe catch it, so they're doing theirs every 4 hours to try to, if they catch it, maybe catch it before somebody exposes somebody else. And other than that, I tried to tell them that, I mean, we're kind of just doing the essential law enforcement function where we're at. And then Seamus hooked up the doorbell, so even in the back, somebody can ring the doorbell, we can actually talk to them through the door. A lot of stuff is just people asking questions of what to do, and we can handle that without breaking the social distance. And then I guess probably one of the other things, we've been working on what does this executive order mean for us? And I think Kurt's office has told us it means pretty much this is an administrative thing is what we're finding. I know the state police put out a letter last night and said we're on like a listserv for all the law enforcement agencies, and they sent it out saying, hey, listen, some officers have gotten a little aggressive and went out and started asking for your papers and where you're at, are you in your right zone type things, and that upset. I could tell that the superintendent wasn't happy with that, so he's tried to make it a point that this is administrative, and we're not out here stopping people to find out what you're doing on the roads. This right now, and I emphasize this, I think right now it's administrative. I think it doesn't proceed to, if they don't follow these, you may see more of an aggressive stance taken. But right now, it's administrative. And I want to say, Kurt, you researched it.
No, absolutely, and we talked just a little bit about it in the staff meeting, that what the executive order says and what the statute says, and that ultimately, you know, what your mechanism is a B misdemeanor, but it has to be intentional or reckless or willful or et cetera. And we talked about the difference between that and, you know, looking for.
And you've got to almost put that in perspective too, because our prosecutor going to do it. Right. They may say they don't want to enforce. The jail has already made restrictions that they don't want people going to jail under a level 6 felony. It's because they don't want an outbreak in the jail. So then comes the question of what's the mechanism to take them and do the B misdemeanor? Probably best would be you would face consequences, but it may not be immediate. So that'd probably be how we go down.
Are the hospitals around here still meeting? Like, are they requesting? And
I had heard that they had I guess they're called kids, is what Parkview. I contacted them to see. I want to make sure if we're doing this, how they were doing it. So Parkview gave us, there's these ladies around here, we're doing way above what even Parkview required. But Parkview shot me some of their stuff. They did 100 kids there out of so they could make like 100 masks is what I got out of it. So yeah, I would say everybody's still short masks. They're reusing them, just, you know, not where we want to be. And they were saying, you know, these are the nurses that I took it to. I think we gave 30 to the nurses, and they were so jacked. They said, listen, man, I go, I'm not sure how good. I mean, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not claiming they're N95. I don't know how they, you know, and they're like, you know, it's better than what we got, which is nothing. One was a lady who sat at the front desk of the doctor's office, and she's like, she was really happy because she goes, of the ones we have, I have to say, I can't get one because the nurses and the doctors have to get them and they're restricted. And she goes, I sat up here at the front desk, so she was really happy. And that's all because of the community. That has nothing to do with us. All we are is we have less restrictions. We can drive and pick them up off their doorstep, and then we take them to where they, all we're doing is kind of delivering them. But I just can't believe it. I mean, it's nice that you got community over this. And they're popping up and people talking, hey, we got some masks, come get them. Any other questions or anything? I can try to answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Old business, we got stormwater rates, if we're just gonna.
Yeah, we're in limbo with that at the moment, obviously, we just haven't progressed to where we have any documentation yet. I'm not saying it's not being worked on, We just don't have anything yet.
And then we're still waiting on a quote for the phone lines.
One quote, Seamus is just waiting on that, and then we'll be able to present the proposal of the upgrade of the phone lines.
And the outstanding warrants.
Yes, Ruth Ann is going to cover that.
Okay. The cancellation of outstanding warrants is pursuant to Indiana code that all checks that are outstanding and unpaid for a period of 2 years as of December 31st of each year are considered void. Then what happens once you guys approve the list is this money is just receipted back into the fund that it came from. And if anyone that sees their name on the list, sees it, has documentation, they can come back and submit something again. Were checks lost in the mail, were checks were issued, it covers all these things because as a rule, I do not pay the fees to the bank to have, a check,
Stop payment.
yes, thank you, a stop payment on a check. And so I just leave them on my books and you each should have received that list, so a motion to approve would be appreciated.
I'll make a motion to approve the cancellation of outstanding warrants totaling $2,555.81.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call then, please. Arlene?
Aye.
Elmer?
Aye.
Tad?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
And Josh?
Aye.
She was like, we've done this before.
Smooth sailing now. Okay, suspension of any water shutoffs or penalties.
Yeah, we're actually going to cover two ordinances tonight. And when we wrote the agenda, we were looking at wording, which were correct at the time, but this is a very fluid situation. And as a result of that, the ordinances that you're going to be looking at tonight will cover some of these aspects. But in regards to the suspension of water shutoffs and penalties, what we're talking about there is in this very trying time, especially where we have a lot of people not being able to work because their businesses are being shut down. What we will be asking from council is to suspend any water shutoffs in regards to delinquent accounts where people simply haven't been able to make their payments, where we go through a normal procedure where we'll send out certain notifications, and then after a period of time, if nothing is satisfied in regards to the payment of that, we would then have the authority to shut that water off. We're asking for that to be suspended, and also any late penalties that might incur. We're still going to keep up the paperwork, making sure people know where they are in regards to the amounts and that, but we would be asking council, and we're going to be covering them in the ordinance, but asking council to actually suspend the shutting off of water and or any late penalties that might be occurred through this very trying time with the coronavirus.
And I believe that in the ordinance, it actually refers to penalties for just a 2-month period of April and May. We bill a month behind is how we, bill out for things. And so at this point in time, I guess we thought that would be a reasonable length of time.
And the first draft I sent you, just so that you know, I did not realize that, so I have March in there as well. Pointed that out to me, and it's been removed.
And the shutoffs basically would run as long as the emergency is in place or the governor's orders, I mean, as long as this is rampant, people need their water.
I don't think you're looking for a motion necessarily, are you, or are you?
No,
No,
it's covered in the
no, it
ordinance.
is covered in the ordinance.
I just wanted to think to people that we weren't skipping over the agendas,
Absolutely.
items, that when it was written, we had a certain track that we were going on. We thought we were heading to Los Angeles, but we got off in New York. But nevertheless,
Just want to be there.
just want to make sure that we're not just skipping over things.
Along those lines, the same thing with the claims payment. That's covered by the ordinance.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
What isn't necessarily covered under the ordinance would be the reimbursement of wolf building rentals during the COVID-19 restriction. In other words, if you rent the wolf building and then you decide that you didn't need it because of possibly other people missing out, we're missing out on that date or whatever, we've never reimbursed. But because we shut the wolf building down for the month of March, reimbursement of customers, we think, who were renting the building was fair, but we need to have council actually approve that to be able to reimburse those that have already booked the Wolf building to the full extent of that money. And also then looking at the suspension of renting the Wolf building until such a time as we deem it satisfactory to do so.
And we do have people that book the building a year, sometimes 2 years in advance. And when we do talk to them, we say, you know, would you like to try to reschedule? And then we'll just move if they've had a deposit or paid. But in some cases, some events cannot be rescheduled, and therefore a refund seemed like the practical thing to do, especially while the building is officially closed, because it was closed during March. It's going to be through April. Am I correct there for sure? Yeah. So, and from there it'll be what
Until
happens.
further notice is what we probably should be looking for.
Do we want to tie that in with the emergency deadlines, just in case they get extended, this is part of it? Because if we don't put a deadline on it, then it's kind of like, yeah, we forgot about it, here it is in June.
I think it's entirely up to you. If we make a motion with that, I think that's fine.
Is lost revenue the same as expense?
That's an interesting question. And I would say, you're all up for this, it depends. It can be, yes. And I don't know reason I'm hedging is if you're going for, is it reimbursable? I'm guessing the answer is no, but I don't know for sure. That's a great question, is loss of income. In my insurance policy, if I have a rental property and I lose the income, I'm entitled to get that reimbursed to me under the policy. So in that case, it would be. In this case with the federal government, I don't know the answer to that yet because I haven't gotten familiar enough with it. But it's worth at least keeping track of and asking the question of Doc.
Okay.
Do we need a policy for the rental of the Wolf buildings? Is that?
What do you guys think?
Oh, we do.
We do have. a-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they do that.
Well,
You're suspended.
We actually map it out.
Tying them in with-
black
You like the
Well,
idea of tying them in with it?
Like the idea of what?
Tying them in with the deadline of, like, if the emergency gets extended, so does the policy to reimburse for the Wolf building?
Probably, because we do have it rented out further, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Is it rented out every month in the upcoming months?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have it rented out to 2022 in some cases.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Serious.
Well, I think we should reimburse until the crisis is over or till the governor opens up everything again. As long as there's a stay-at-home order, for sure.
I think if we tie it to the emergency situation, then we don't have to revisit it again.
Right, it would just go back to normal.
Yeah, it's just.
That expires, yeah. Yeah.
I know, buddy. BP. Yeah, I got your back.
Yeah. I figured it was-
I make a motion to suspend the non-reimbursement of renting out the Wolf building, or the enforcement of the reimbursement policy for the Wolf building, and tie it into a deadline with the emergency situation because of COVID-19.
Second,
Roll call.
Arlene,
yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
Pat?
Yep.
Zach?
I-
And Josh?
Yes.
So, adoption of COVID-19 employee and operations policies.
Go right ahead.
13? Okay,
Please.
okay, all right, I will do it. All right. So this first one is the procedural part of it. This is not the part that deals with leave or pay for working at home. So this is really more to comply with Ruth Ann's requirements from the standpoint of State Board of Accounts, those type of things, waiving the, I guess, procedures and formalities. It waives a lot of those procedures and formalities to allow payment of claims, various things to happen that are considered to be normal business activities within the scope of your budget, et cetera. Allow those things to happen without having to go through some of the typical formalities and procedures that you have to follow. It also, albeit somewhat after the fact, limits public access, of course, to the buildings, and that includes all of your town buildings. It excludes, of course, people from coming in that exhibit symptoms, et cetera, those type of things. This is the policy that the state was recommending you adopt, and of course, because our meeting is now and we didn't have that ready, and this is why we're addressing it, even though it's a little bit somewhat late. It's not too late. It addresses most of those operational procedural issues that you're already following, you're already posting notice, you're already limiting public access, you're already excluding people that are exhibiting symptoms, et cetera, and you're now giving written formality to that, and you're, of course, giving Ruth Ann authority to waive all these formalities so that she can deal with payment of claims, et cetera. So if you're interested in passing that, you can go ahead and do so. And there's 3 originals for you to consider.
I make a motion to pass the ordinance setting operation procedures during the declared state of emergency concerning the spread of coronavirus and implementing certain containment countermeasures.
Second.
Roll call, Arlene,
Aye.
Elmer,
Aye.
Pam, Zach,
Aye.
and Josh.
Aye.
Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, I think so.
So the next one really accomplishes 2 things. One is more of an elective, and that is to allow, if you want, and if the circumstances are right, and if the person can perform their essential job functions at home, you can permit that now and pay them without.
I
running.
leave it for a second.
Please.
Do we have a second reading on that?
We do, but usually they do it at the end,
That's
but
great. I just want to make sure.
it's a good question. We haven't done it yet. Okay.
So that there are 2 separate ones there.
There are, and you're right, and we could do that, or we could
No,
wait. Okay.
you're good.
Okay. Then the other part of it is to incorporate federal law, which is the FMLA requirements that basically say for public entities, you basically have to offer pay your employees either 100% or 66 and 2/3%, depending on which category they fall in, as to whether or not they're been diagnosed, whether or not they're caring for someone at home, etc. So that's really what's happening here. First is the first part deals with the ability to have a pay for someone that's working at home that's capable of doing so, and the other one is if they're on leave and not able to work, period, because they fit within those requirements that are established by the federal law, then you have up to 80 hours of pay that you're given, which is essentially 2 weeks, which the theory is while they're being quarantined. So that's kind of what's happening here. This particular document has an expiration date of December 31, 2020, consistent with federal law. Interested in that? We also approve by title.
I did notice that was signed into law March 18th of this year.
Yes. It was perfect timing, Elmer.
I'll make a motion to pass a temporary ordinance establishing paid COVID-19 paid time and stay home pay for certain town employees.
Second.
Roll call, Arlene,
Aye.
Elmer,
Aye.
Pam, Zach,
Aye.
and Josh.
Aye.
And of course, within, at your convenience, if you can give me one of these originals when they're signed, I appreciate it. I don't need it tonight.
Okay, very good. Do we just want to do the motion to suspend the rules for the second reading at this time?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Arlene,
Aye.
Elmer,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Now, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I have one more item to bring up. It's okay. Really just asking for authority to work with Ruth Ann and Bob to look at modifying our current water and storm, sorry, let me back up, to modify our sewer, water, and stormwater billing ordinances and practices to bring them in to be consistent with current law and to look at the possibility of implementing deposits for sewer.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Arlene,
Aye.
Elmer,
Aye.
Pam, Zach, Josh.
Aye.
Could a question ask from these ordinances, and it's housekeeping on my part. When we ask our company that codifies all these, are these ones that should be added to the codification of those?
They should, even though they're temporary,
I mean,
they should include them for historical purposes and nothing else.
Okay.
They do expire. You don't have to though, Bob, but
Good housekeeping.
yeah. I don't know how much it costs, I guess.
I put them off this year because we didn't have that many, you know. I think we do it every 2 years.
Yeah.
I think I put it on.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. I just put a list together and send it to them.
It'd be good to include them. I mean, you're not required to, they're gonna expire before then, but.
Okay. I should have mentioned it earlier, but I'm sure we all know, Mayfest is cancelled, but I know everybody knows that, but I think I should just make it known in public meeting that, and we're not the organisers of Mayfest, it's going through the SRMA, but it has been cancelled, possibly at a later date, but I don't know that that's actually been discussed. It's been cancelled. And nothing else to add to the meeting tonight.
I would like a motion to approve your claims register for March 26th, please. And to go ahead and sign the March 12th.
So move.
Second.
Roll call, Arlene,
Aye.
Elmer,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
and Josh.
Aye.
Start with Josh next time, so it's like that.
Ah, okay, sorry. I don't have anything else. So.
Okay.
I think so.
Jamie, you got anything?
I have nothing.
Josh, you
No.
No, thank you.
I appreciate Bob coming to our RDC meeting last Friday. We get into things that one comes on another, and this project you're working on over here affects what we're doing in the brain. This is nice to keep things together. I appreciate you coming over there, Bob.
Arlene, do you have anything?
Well, I just wondered about the new restrooms, when they're gonna open.
They could actually open on Monday of next week. I had a few smaller things that had to be adjusted, and the one guy working, so he was in there, I can't say yesterday, but he was certainly in there today, just finishing off the minor points. We have been given a letter of occupancy from the county, but I want everything finalised, even the smaller things, until we take it over. When we do take it over, we'll start the insurance for the building, and then we'll look at shutting off all the utilities to the existing structure and demolishing that. And that probably would be a good time to do that while the town is somewhat
That's true.
quiet.
Yeah. Very good.
But I'm hoping to have that ready for Monday.
Okay.
Elmer?
Yeah, I just guess I wanted a reminder, because I did, the weather being nice and all, people are starting to burn
Mhm.
yard brush and leaves and such. Just a reminder, we got to get a reminder out there that there's a no burn ordinance in the town. I don't know what it was for sure, what they were burning, but it was smoke in my backyard and I wasn't burning nothing. So don't know what it was.
We'll do that.
We can get that on the website then.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
the ordinance and that, number and that,
Put
so we
something
can put it on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it for you now.
How close are we on Twitter or Facebook posting?
We're doing it.
Right now, we are right now.
We're on Facebook,
I don't have Facebook, so I, it's.
and we just set up a town Twitter.
Okay.
We don't have any followers.
No followers yet. Oh, man.
I just add that Seamus has been working diligently on our website also. At some stage, you're all going to have to consent to have your photo taken so it can be put out there for the world to see. We have some older ones there, I think of when, I don't know, Adolf Hitler was a council member here or something like that, right back in the day. So we've got to update some of those photos.
Okay.
And is everybody aware that the award that Park got, maybe we might want to enlighten everybody, it's a very prestigious award.
Oh, let's hear it. Oh,
Yeah.
It's got some good news for you.
yeah, there's positive vibes around here, man.
Thank you, George. That's kind of you, but unnecessary, but we're very thankful today. He was awarded.
Well done.
I haven't seen him yet. I don't know. Dad's happy.
It's just maintaining that 600-mile rule.
Anything for him to do?
It wasn't-
He's at home.
And it just wasn't a hobby, it was on grade, it was school, leadership. Great.
Good way to end it.
Before you suspend me, I don't know how this is all going to pan out, but in the event that we have to be more restricted than what we are, is this format okay?
Our test is scoring, yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Well,
I think so.
I think it works. It's the volume, the
Yeah.
sound is just a little bit on the shy side, and I got my speaker turned all the way up.
Yeah,
I
we're
do.
talking about getting some type of an actual microphone.
Oh.
that we can get out.
Yeah.
We also got to waive the second readings.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
You voted yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Elmer. The sound is the worst part.
It's just a little bit on the light side, and it's got a
Yeah.
slight glitch in it.
What was that? The lighting too, you say?
It's
No,
just
just
a
like
slight
glitch.
glitch
Okay.
in the sound.
So if you would want to give that some thought, we can get the gatekeeper over here, that's what we now call Seamus. He's the gatekeeper. We can put him to task and,
Figure it out.
if that's what you would like to do.
And if I am correct, and you can help me, I believe this is only effective during the emergency
Right.
because we do not have policy to cover it.
Right.
But
Oh, gee,
I
we
just
can't
want-
stay,
yeah,
we can't stay home and do this every time.
Oh, come on.
legally though, I'm impressed. Very
Yeah.
well done. Met all the statutory requirements, met all the guidelines. Of course, you can't control the volume. The only other piece, which isn't required, unless you're having a hearing, is the ability for the public to give feedback. We don't need that now in a public meeting, but if you ever have a hearing, like let's say a rate hearing or something like that, which we will never will, that would be the only other piece would be the ability for the public to ask questions, submit some kind of format of response, whether it be electronic or otherwise. Today, we don't need it. Public comment is not required, but I'm impressed with how you've done this, and I think it clearly meets the spirit of the law, and I think with speakers, so that the public can hear it better. Once you get that accomplished, this is great. So, good job. Thank you.
I don't have the whole document here, I think it does talk about that, Kurt, where you should restrict that type of meeting where you do need that public feedback and the right increase in that.
I think it's a good supplement though for when it's happening, for people that can't get here.
Oh my gosh. This could You never know, I mean, this,
Like, we could all be here, we could still do this format as a supplement.
you can. In other words, you can always do more than what you're required to, and if the public participates and they like this format, then you may.
So, but next week, the next meeting, we're still in the shelter in place order. You can't create a quorum by having 3 there and 2 here.
Yeah, you
can right now.
Right now, you could only,
We can
have-
right now.
you can only have 1 here.
You'd still be late.
Even.
According to
Well,
the document,
Or none, right?
according to the document, you can have 0 here.
Yeah, you go down to 0.
Okay.
You have to have a person
Yeah.
to open the door to the
Yeah.
public, that's
Okay.
all you have. Now, we recommend, if everybody's safe and comfortable having a quorum to the present, but you do not have to have one.
The only thing I find about having the quorum is this here, and we all know if the electrical aspects of something goes down, then your meeting goes down. The minute we lose that,
Or internet.
Internet,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the thing.
that's a great point, Bob.
Or if somebody lives in that home.
Well, hopefully in 2 weeks or whenever, we'll be able to, Elmer and I will be able to come and then we don't have to worry about it. We can hope.
I asked you this earlier, how are you doing from your surgery?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I graduated from the walker to the cane, so
Oh, good.
it's coming along.
And I would be there, except I'd have my kids down my throat.
Well, that would be good.
Cause it'd be video proof.
Yeah.
All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Homer,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
and Josh.
Aye.
Did you hear the news today? Yeah, on the radio.
And.
I-
And-